All right, guys, let's have a frank discussion today about how you need to stop making excuses and go ahead and retire today. Now, I know it's a bold statement there. I understand that a lot of you guys may not have the funds in order to do that, and you would be correct in that assessment. However, I'm saying this because a lot of you guys can actually retire. Matter of fact, the vast majority of you guys can actually retire, but you're just kind of stuck in the construct of the traditional retirement, the kind of old school thought process that we all have. We were all raised with. It's not a knock or anything else like that, but we all have that. And so I want to open up your eyes a little bit to where the vast majority of you guys could absolutely retire today, even if you're in a situation where you're like, Luke, there's no way. There is actually a way. Of course, it will take sacrifice. It will take your ability to have an open mind and to be open to suggestions. If you're going to say, well, that wouldn't work. Well, that wouldn't work. Well, I can't do this. Well, I can't do that. Well, you're just making excuses at that stage and you're never going to do anything in the end. I know those type folks. And they're usually the same exact folks that a decade from now, you can give them all the help in the world. And a decade from now, they're still in the same exact spot. And I don't want you guys to be in that rut, that life. Obviously, as I get older, the decades click along faster. It seems not fair, right? When you're younger, they can't go fast enough. And then now that you're older and you want more, they go faster and faster. So I don't want you guys to be in that spot where it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you're still in the same exact spot. And more importantly, being retired and having the ability or being financially free, whatever you want to call it, is so important. And a lot of times we lose sight of that because of all the other distractions and basically what society tells us more importantly. And so let's talk about breaking away from that specifically. So there are three categories of folks out there, three categories for you guys out there. And one, you're going to fit into one of these buckets here. So I'm going to discuss each one of those and show you exactly how to retire right now today. But let's get into the why the heck you would want to retire right now anyways. And to me, these are multifold, but through all my research, all the data, there's tons of books out there. Please do your own research on this as well, or just go ask old folks. I go ask older folks all the time, hey, what's your biggest regret in retirement? And I have never had one person tell me, oh, I wish I would have worked more. That has never happened. I've had plenty of folks, though, tell me, I wish I would have worked less. I wish I would have retired earlier. I wish I would have taken more time to do X, Y, or Z. I wish I would have taken more risk. I wish I would have done a lot of other things of that nature. That is a common thing that I hear all the time, but I never hear, I wish I would have worked more. And right now we are all working more for a lot of reasons. We don't even know why. We try to make excuses. We try to create oh, well, that's really a need when it's really a want, and a lot of other things of that nature. And it puts us in basically a trap, in a prison that we can't get out of. Because the reality is, a lot of us are working for stuff. I mean, why the heck do you need a new car every 2 years? But statistically, that's what people do. Why the heck do you need the latest iPhone all the time? I mean, I could buy any car I want in the entire world. I drive an old beat up used car because I don't freaking care. It doesn't matter. My goals are different and I wanted to be retired and I can retire at any point in time that I want to or have financial freedom. I've had financial freedom for a really, really long time because that's what I wanted. And that to me was more important than that new car. And more importantly, now I could buy whatever car I wanted. I could buy a Ferrari and it doesn't hurt my finances any. It doesn't dent any. It doesn't affect anything. It's okay, as opposed to where most folks are buying the most expensive car that they can afford the payment on. And then of course, that means you really couldn't afford it in the first place, but that puts you further behind in regards to actually the important things in life that you really want to do. So a lot of folks are just working to buy more stuff instead of actually working towards building up financial freedom. Everybody seems to want it, but then their actions show they want stuff more than they want financial freedom. And we got to break free of that. And the second piece here that everybody seems to forget is your health. Unfortunately, if you're 40 right now, if you're waiting to retire until you're 65, you're not going to be nearly as healthy, most likely. And more importantly, you're only, statistically in the US, if you're 65, you're what, 9 years away from dying? Statistically, at that stage, I don't know about you, but I'd much rather enjoy 20 something years and more importantly, be much healthier and be at an age where I can enjoy those things versus not being able to retire at all or only being able to retire when I'm much older and my health is much worse. And it's really, really hard to improve your health whenever you're grinding away at work, sitting in traffic, doing your commute, taking phone calls at night, all these other things that kind of get in the way. It's really, really hard to focus on that health piece. So it's almost unhealthy to continue to work later on in life as you continue to go because obviously your health is going to decline regardless, but you can't even do the steps to delay it as long as possible to enjoy your retirement. Here's actually a funny comment from my last video here, and I got to read it because of course I can't remember it. I had a doctor and they treat older people, and he had a patient who wanted to travel when he retired, and he does. He travels to the urologist, the cardiologist, etc. So, that's true. A lot of older folks can't travel because by the time they're able to retire, they're not physically able to travel anymore. So those are all the more reasons why you need to start looking at an alternative to that traditional way of retirement. But let's kind of see which bucket you drop into here, and I'll kind of show you exactly how you can retire with each one of the buckets. The first bucket is you have plenty, but you're afraid to retire. Look, if you're constantly listening to people like Susie Orman, click my video right up here on her, little thing she said. She said you need $350,000 a year to just be happy to be retired. That's crazy. You can live on way less than that. $350,000 a year is what you need to do. No wonder if you listen to her and you value her opinion, you're going to be working forever unless you make millions of dollars, because it's almost impossible to build up enough assets in order to be able to fund $350,000 a year in retirement income. It's just laughable, honestly, at that stage. But a lot of folks fear all kinds of things. And I find that a lot of that fear comes from listening to stuff like that instead of having the guts to actually step out and take action and actually do it. The second piece is you haven't planned out your retirement yet. So, everybody always says, I want to retire. What do you want to do? I want to travel. Great. Where are you going? I don't know. What does your spouse think? Oh, I'm not sure. She kind of doesn't want to travel. Okay, well, that's not a plan. That's just a wish and a want. And yeah, it becomes really, really scary to retire when you don't know what's next. You don't know what your next step is because you haven't planned it yet. So I run into folks, it's not a lot, but a lot of folks out there, you guys have enough to retire right now today, and you just don't want to make that commitment. You don't want to take that step, or maybe your identity is wrapped up in your work in the first place. That's who you are. I'm Dr. So-and-so, or I'm, this person, or I'm that person, or I'm, VP of whatever. And you have your entire identity wrapped up in that. Well, that's something that you can start working on right now. But to tell me you can't retire is false. You can retire. You just want that attention, that feeling, whatever the heck it is that you get from that. Now, again, I don't know who all falls into this category, and there could be other reasons as well that maybe you just don't want to stay home. I don't disagree there too. That's the reason why in the Blacklist we talk about getting your side hustle going in something that you absolutely love, so that way you have something to transition to in retirement that's not as stressful, not as you don't have to be in the office at certain times and do all these other things of that nature, where you can truly do something you love and turn it into something that makes money in the end. And if you really love it, and if you're kind of business oriented, you can turn it into a lot of money on the back end there, but there's no pressure on you to do that because you're just simply doing it as something you love to do, and it's not necessary to fund your retirement. And more importantly, you could probably, if you're telling me, hey, I've got $1.5 million, but I can't afford to retire because I have this big expensive house and, cars and all that. Okay, then just cut the lifestyle. Downsize a little bit, and then you could retire today. I understand it'll take like 6 months for you to make the full transition there, but you could absolutely do it today. It's just simply you don't want to make those changes in order to do it today. That is very, very different than not being able to do it today. So that right there is the first category of folks right there, is they have enough money to retire, but something is keeping them from doing it in the first place. So on to number 2. You're chasing traditional retirement, but the math isn't looking good. So some of you guys have been putting money back and been doing some of the right things. Now, maybe not all the right things in order to hit that traditional retirement. You're starting to figure out, hey, my math doesn't math here. I need 1.5 million in retirement, and I only have 500,000, 600,000, and it doesn't look like I'm going to make it there. I'm 55 right now, and in a decade, I don't know if I'm going to have the 1.5 to 3.5 million I need in order to retire that traditional way by the time I'm 65. So the math isn't looking good for you to get there. Maybe you only got 300,000. So the math just isn't looking good in order for you to get there. However, if you choose to do a lean retirement like we teach in the Blacklist program, the math looks very good in order for you to get there. You've got to break away from that traditional retirement mindset and come over here to the lean lifestyle mindset, and you might very well be able to retire today. Much less if you worked another 10 years, that you may be able to secure an incredible retirement at that stage if you embrace the lean lifestyle today. Now, let me give you guys a personal example. You may not believe it, but I live on less than $3,000 a month, and I live in a beautiful home on the beach in a wonderful beach community. It's not a small house either. It's way larger than I need. I promise you, I turn bedrooms into gyms and other things of that nature. That's how much room and space is in this house. I eat what I want. I do what I want. I have no limitations, but I still live on less than $3,000 a month because I chose to use this lean lifestyle. That's exactly, we laid this out step by step in the Blacklist, where we basically went through exactly how to basically have somebody else pay me to live in this house. That's the situation I'm in right now. How to save money, how to create wins for you where you're actually making money, where most folks are spending money. A lot of folks are always complaining about, what are the 2 things they don't have? Time and money. But yet, what are the 2 things people waste the most? Money and their time. And statistically, that's proven. And we kind of lay out all the different ways, and all different ways, not only do you waste time and money, but also how you could improve your time management and make more money on the back end there and create these scenarios where you end up winning regardless. But when you start living a lean lifestyle, you start looking at, okay, yeah, I could pay that over here, but then I can do this over here for free. So let me go the free route. Those are just little things like that that add up and they kind of compound over time and create scenarios where, hey, yeah, you're right. You may be behind in terms of that nest egg in order to be able to retire. And unlike the first person who can retire today, but they just won't make the decision to do it, you aren't actually going to get there unless you decide to do a lean lifestyle type of living situation to where absolutely you've got to make some cuts, you've got to make some changes, but then all of a sudden your bills and your requirements become a lot less. People always think about the asset column. I need 1.5 million, I need 3.5 million, all these other things of that nature. And that's great. I'm not saying it's not important, but probably the most important is the expense column. And people neglect that all the time. And your situation can completely flip on top of its head if you master that expense column. And that's exactly what our lean lifestyle program is all about there, is doing that. And you guys, I jump on the FIRE movement here, punch it right up there in the search button right up here on YouTube. You can find all kinds of great information, all kinds of tips and tricks to get there. But if you sit down and you plan this out, you could absolutely turn your finances and inside out. And again, for folks say that's really hard to do, I'm doing it right now. I am living proof of this. Our experts in our group are living proof. They are living that right now in retirement. A lot of these folks have very small nest eggs, and yet they're living in great cities around the country here, and they live incredible, fulfilling lives. They're enjoying themselves. They're sharing their knowledge as well now with the next group of folks that want to learn to live that way as well. And so to tell me it's impossible is just simply not true. I'm living it personally. If your bills are not below that $3,000 mark, let's say your bills are $5,000 or $7,000 or whatever the heck they are a month, then that means there's probably some room for improvement. And a lot of our experts are actually living on less than I am. So, they decided to make even further decisions than I have. And not a single one of them says that it wasn't worth it. That getting out of that grind from, daily work life wasn't totally worth it. And yes, they were told they were crazy by friends and family and everybody else. But guess what? Welcome to life. If you look like everybody else, you're going to be like everybody else. And that means working until you die. And I have no desire to work until I die. Or if I'm going to work until I die, I want to do something that I absolutely love. So this right here, this bucket right here can absolutely happen. It just requires you going that next step and learning to live that lean lifestyle and getting out there and getting really, really aggressive with your expense column. So that way your asset column, which wasn't sufficient enough to fund your expenses before, now might very well be sufficient enough to fund your expenses in retirement. In the end, it's a simple math equation, and the math changes drastically if you drop your expenses from $6,000, for example, a month that you need in retirement down to $3,000, for example, you need in retirement. Now all of a sudden you need half. So if you were only halfway there before, well, guess what? You're there now and you're able to retire. And number 3 is a small nest egg and no chance at traditional retirement anytime soon, if ever. Now, how the heck can those people retire right now? I already hear the questions coming up. And the answer to this question is, right or wrong, we've all made decisions through life. Now, maybe this is a young person who just started out and they just want to retire early. Okay, then they got a little bit of work to do here in order to get there. But for a lot of us, we've all made different decisions, had different things happen over time, and that have put us in our spot that we're in right now. Regardless of what all happened there, fair, not fair, whatever the case is, I'm not here to debate that. The reality is in order to do this, you have to get extremely uncomfortable. You have to make bigger decisions, more out of the box decisions. You have got to get as far away from traditional retirement as possible. That is the only way in order for you to be able to do that. So that means you can go lean retirement, but then you also may need to mix in a strong dose of sustainable retirement as well to kind of make that happen. Now, a lot of folks in our group anyways actually do that. So, a lot of our lean folks actually take on a lot of the sustainable concepts, and a lot of our sustainable folks take on a lot of lean concepts as well. If you got really, really extreme with that, you may be able to cut those expenses down significantly in order to reach that point where you can be able to afford, especially here in the US, be able to afford to live on a very, very small amount. But that right there is tough to do. I would agree completely. So you've got to get even more uncomfortable, which means, in my opinion, you need to move overseas and decide to live some other place other than the US. Now, this is not a political statement or anything else like that, so don't take it that way. I thought this 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Doesn't matter who's in freaking office. This has nothing to do with that garbage. This has to do with being able to live an incredible life and being able to arbitrage the fact that you live in America and you have the dollar and you make money in dollars, and being able to go over to other countries where your money just goes a lot further. Now, to be upfront, I have not done this one yet, but I am actually doing this one in real time, and I am documenting the process and the journey. Everything I'm doing, every single decision that I make, I am doing in real time in there for our Blacklist group there. So that way they can see it. So that way I can come to you guys and say, hey, not only am I living a lean retirement over here, I've also come over here and I've done kind of basically the retire overseas, arbitrage, currency arbitrage, whatever the heck you want to call it. I'm also going to do that one over here as well, where you basically only need $1,000 a month in order to be able to live a pretty good life overseas. And again, before you say that's not possible, one, I'm going to prove that it's possible. But two, you're right, I haven't done it yet, but we have experts in our group who have done it, and they are living on amounts like that. And no, they're not living poor lives out in some rural area out in the middle of nowhere, out in this crazy country. Like some of these people are living on $1,000 a month. That's right, I said $1,000 a month in great cities with better healthcare than we have here in the United States. Obviously, it's a heck of a lot cheaper. Everywhere's cheaper than here, but their healthcare is actually better than here. They actually live in a safer area than the US is, and they live a nice middle class lifestyle. And we have to get all those ideas that we have in our heads from the 80s and 90s about the rest of the world. The world has changed. There's a lot of other countries that not only have caught up to us in terms of healthcare, they surpassed us in terms of healthcare. There's a lot of countries where it was unsafe 40 years ago. Now they're some of the safest places in the world today. But yet the cost of living is still significantly cheap like it was back then too. So that right there is what I'm talking about in regards to it being completely possible. And honestly, you don't even need a whole heck of a lot in order to be able to fund that lifestyle. Let's say you're able to live that $1,000 a month lifestyle there. Well, heck, you might be able to get that just simply by renting out your house, your current house that you live in right now today, rent it out while you live here. And it may give you enough money after, you pay all the bills and everything on top of the mortgage, because rents have gone crazy. In regards to that, you may have enough right there to be able to retire and be able to live and have that amount, that little bit of extra above, actually fund your retirement in a different country. I have a close personal friend that did exactly that. They actually did it with kids, if you can believe that. So they essentially just rented out their house, and it's not a big giant mansion or anything else like that. They're very, very much firmly, lower middle class to maybe middle class. They rented out that home, and with the extra money that it got above and beyond the mortgage, they take that money and they live overseas on that money. So they didn't have any other nest egg. They had zero. All they had was just simply their house, and they used that in order to arbitrage it there and to be able to basically retire and take their entire family with them. So to say it's not possible, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Even if you just had a $200,000 nest egg there, that is enough to be able to fund you to be able to live overseas in some of those areas. I agree that's cutting it close. I agree it is, you may want more cushion than that, but we're talking about just being able to do it, getting to that $200,000 mark, or being able to use your house and using a little bit of the rent, maybe that combination of that and some of the other things will get you there. It may take some planning. It obviously is going to take a lot of discipline. So although I understand that may not seem all that feasible, may seem a little bit dangerous, and you may not be able to retire today, like I said in the video's title, I apologize ahead of time. That's a very, very short window in order for you to be able to be in a spot where you can absolutely retire, as opposed to the traditional retirement where you essentially see no hope, or you're waiting until you're 65 in order to be able to do that, or whatever the case is. This definitely provides you and proves that there is an alternative there. Again, we have experts in our group that are living all of these, that are there helping you out. We have a complete system. It's a complete program that's broken down, gives you step by step how to go from zero to hero, financially free, over here on the other side. Every single step along the way is included in there. Of course, I'm there to go along with you. If you want to see that journey in real time, make sure you take advantage of the founder spots that are available right now, where you not only get the cheapest price that it will ever be at, you also get lifetime access for free. Later on, whenever we switch to a subscription model, you won't pay a dime. You get access to everything now and anything in the future that comes to it, any future courses, any future programs, anything else that comes, you get it for free because you're one of the founding members there, and those spots are limited. So make sure you grab your spot down there. It's the pinned comment, but hopefully this video made sense and was helpful, and we'll see you guys in the next video.